I'm getting all this stuff on there. Good. Okay. So if you look on this side, everyone look on, it's a AP US History LEQ guidelines. And this is how they grade the AP exams. Does everyone have this out? Take a look at this real quick. Take a look at this.
Yes.
And it's a 6-point scale. They do it on a 6-point scale. The other essay, long essay we do is called the DBQ. They do it on a 7-point scale. And you might have seen rubrics before. Don't you hate that word? Rubric. You say it. Everyone say it. Rubric.
It's a good word.
This is more fun for you. So, guideline. I said. Now, the first thing about this is these are shockingly subjective. You know, this is not like you do these 5 things, you'll get the points. It doesn't quite work that way. You write a good essay, you'll get a good score. So we have to write an essay. The big thing about what guidelines do is it gives you the things that the AP graders are looking at, which I can't do it. I won't do it. I can't sit in a room for 5 days and grade essays. Unless they fly me someplace really cool. I've been doing this for so long, I always get invited, I get asked to do it, but I gotta go someplace cool where I'm not taking another trip. So, this is a 6-point scale, but 2 of them directly relate to the thesis statement. 2 of them. The first one is a good thesis that addresses the question, that's 1 out of 6 points. That's a lot. And so they look at the thesis statement. So of any sentence that you write in your essay, that's the one that's got to be very clear, that they can find easily. If you think about it, if someone's grading hundreds of essays, their eyes start spinning. You want to make it easy for them. I'm going to ask you to underline your thesis statement. Make sure they see it. Oh, there it is. It's right there. Trust me, they're going fast. They don't want them. You want to give them help. But back to this. And if you look a little bit down near the bottom, it says for analysis and reasoning, and it says use. Oh, I'm sorry, not. And it's analysis and reasoning. Use historical reasoning to frame and structure an argument that addresses the prompt. That is how you're using the thesis to address the question, and using the thesis as the framework of your entire essay, where everything kind of relates back to your thesis. Everything relates back to it. So you address an argument in your thesis, and then everything goes back to that. So you show that historical reasoning throughout it on one basic theme. That is 2 elements that come from the thesis statement. If you have a good thesis and it relates to it, that's 2 out of 6 points. That's a third. That's done. You're doing good shape. And so that's the biggie. You get a thesis statement. The rest of it, you got to write a good historical essay. You got to get good facts, good information. Skimmed it. Perfect throw. So we got to talk a little bit about thesis statement. We'll do thesis statements and tinker around with this, but looking at what people grade it and how, there's a whole variety of people looking at it. Just got to keep it simple and basic for your thesis statement, which will be your opening paragraph. Looking at the rest, I'll talk about a little bit more contextualization. That's background information. The events that led up to the historical era of the prompt. If your essays about the events leading up to the Civil War, you'd write things about like the Industrial Revolution and the events that led up to it, that kind of thing. The next, it was pretty vague before. They've narrowed it down on what they're looking for. And what they basically want are 2 specific examples, historical facts that's relevant to the topic, and then 2 facts that support or relate back to your thesis statement. So what are we saying there? 4 facts. You have to relate it to your thesis. Now, how many facts are we going to look for? 6. And here, why? Hedging your bets. Give a little bit more than what they asked for. Does that make sense to everybody? So I'm going to ask for 6, or if it's a 5-paragraph essay, 2 per body paragraph. 6 what? It's definitely more for AP Euro. Yeah, this is actually AP Euro's changed those to this. Before it was kind of vague, now it's this. And then complex understanding, you use at least 4 facts, which are what you've done up here. We get 6, 2 good per paragraph, and you're in good shape. That's what we do the brainstorm list. Remember we did that yesterday? Those are facts, those are things to trigger memories. And so let's look at a thesis statement. A thesis statement is you're basically addressing the main elements, or as I even have this, look, I'll turn it over for the essay writing. I forgot to say turn it over. You gotta read the question, brainstorm, and then number 3 is write your thesis. And this one, you have to put down basically what you're gonna write in the essay, the purpose of the essay. You're telling the person reading your essay, hey, guess what's happening here? Guess what's coming up next? You're making it clear to the person reading it that you're addressing the question, and this is how you're going to address it. You're making it easy for the person reading the essay. That's what you're doing. It also helps you organize too. But think of it in terms of, I'm laying it out for you in this sentence, the basic element, this is how we're going. That question, yeah.
Is it online?
Just face it. They might go online, but right now we're down the road. But it's still paper. You still have got to sit down and handwrite. In a way, that's better. In a way, that's, you know, handwriting is easier to get your information down, easier to keep organized. But then again, you know, if you know how to type, your hands will be just type. We all know after you write a couple essays, your hands are going to be like this walking around. Hopefully you have 2 AP tests on the same day. Wouldn't that be fun? And if you do, I'm sorry. Okay, back to this. It's like a mini outline. It's like a mini outline. It really helps you. And also I should add, we're doing something for a timed essay. We don't have time to organize and create something where you put everything together in this nice string of thought. You just don't have time for that. This is not the best way to write an essay when you have time, but it's a very good way to write an essay, or when you have lots of time. But it's a very good essay when you have a time crunch. It's something you can plug what you know with, and that's what we got to do here. Everyone finished. Everyone had plenty of time to write their essay, for the most part. But that's because they didn't have to try to recreate something from scratch. If you got time to write an essay, this might be a good way to organize it, but then you have time to expand on it and grow. You know, but this is not this class. It's just, I'm sorry, because we got to adapt. So I divided up now. I have a history degree, went to graduate school in history, but I also have a math degree. I think math matters. Yes, I can teach math. No, I don't want to. Have you been around math teachers? I'm going to tell you one of them. I'll tell you right now. You know who he is. We all know. You know, right? Even if you don't know him, you know. But all I gotta say is next assembly we might have to do evaluations. But and wait a second. If you get in trouble writing your thesis, remember the rug. The rug provides all answers. You ever notice I forget something? I just look at the rug. So back to this. I divide things up mathematically. I like having a formula. And also this also makes it say, hey, you don't have an x. So the basic formula for a thesis is x due to y because of a, b, and c. I like it that way. So you have to deal with my explanation. If you don't necessarily like it this way, I'll try to explain it to help you out, but I can't help it. I think I'm very logical. So that x is the basic topic, the theme, the era, what the question is about. Basically, you're addressing the question in your x. You must have the main element. You read the question and you show what I am addressing, the question or the prompt in the thesis. That's your x. And then something that people forget, but it makes it a stronger one, is the y. Your position, your argument. You're addressing the question. That's the why. So like, if this is like economic issues or social issues, you know, so I have these examples: national identity, cultural, foreign affairs. This changed the economic nature of the United States. So this changed the political nature. This led to huge cultural and political differences in the United States. Something in those big umbrella issues that will tie it all together. So if we're talking about political issues, the change of political issues in the United States. The why is generally pretty broad. You can be a little bit more focused if you know exactly what you want, but just something broad, the economic, political, social. And then this is what I took over 25 years ago when I first started doing this for the AP exam, would be many test versions ago, the blueprint, because of these kind of how it happened, A, B, and C. So, by looking at although, however, because, like something does something because of A, B, and C, your reasons. That is the main element of it. These are all on that little sheet here too. I have a couple of examples too we'll talk about a little bit later. But here is kind of a sample template. I'll look at the next one and see why, which is important because of A, B, and C. What are A, B, and C? A, B, and C are your topics. These three things. And that would be the topic of your 3 body paragraphs. Your first body paragraph is A. Your second one is B. Your third one is C. My guess is a lot of you have had something very close to this. Is that true for a lot of you? So this is review, not a big deal. But the big thing that people miss is that why. Something to tie it all together. That makes it strong. Yeah. Not necessarily, no. You can have 2 or 4. I use generic 5. A 5-paragraph essay, 3 body paragraphs. The problem with getting less than 3, let's say you have 2 body paragraphs get huge, kind of unwieldy. And the problem with more than, you have A, B, C, D, so you have 4 body paragraphs. But you can do that if the essay works out that way. I say 5 because that gives us kind of a generic 3 body paragraphs, and that's like a couple good facts and examples per paragraph. But you're not required. But you still have to address your topics in the thesis. They need that. And that will give you the answer. I'm stealing yours real quick. For this one, for historical reasoning, you have that first body paragraph is right there in your thesis. So you've already connected it. You're showing how you're connecting your historical argument down the line. You aren't just throwing things at the person reading. So let's do an example right now. What was the philosophy behind the Declaration of Independence? Now we're just going to talk about this real quick. The philosophy of the Declaration of Independence. Now I know we had the Declaration a long time ago. It's almost been a month. It's been over a month, a little bit over a month. No, it hasn't. It's been a month. Do you remember the Declaration of Independence? It's there. If you have no memory of it, then you really got to start reviewing this stuff. You got to go back through and do a little brainstorm. Because if you don't, the final is going to be really hard. It's going to be really, really, really hard. But if you go back and review, it'll become easier each time. So let's review the philosophy. First off, you remember the philosopher said life, liberty, and property. You remember that? John Locke. What was that idea where they thought they could use scientific ideas, natural laws? The Enlightenment. Remember the Enlightenment? So John. Now, once I say it, if you didn't remember it right away, did it? Oh, I remember that. You remember the Enlightenment. Once we say it, that's what a brainstorm list hopefully does. If you can't remember, you start going through and like, oh, I remember that. Hopefully, trigger other memories. Try to connect things. But who wrote the Declaration of Independence? Jefferson. And so, remember I laid out 3 examples of the philosophy. First up, all men. Equality. Remember that? And endowed by their creator with certain what? What are the inalienable rights? Now, You might have forgot equality and rights, but then once you said it, did it pop in? Yeah, that's the way memories work. So sometimes you have to kind of bring them back. Equality, unalienable rights. Governments are to create rights, and if government infringes on those rights, people must change that. Remember what that's called? Social contract. Once I said that, is that familiar then to everybody? I hope. If it's not, you got a lot of review to do. Because the expectation is it's there somewhere. No, I understand. You're not going to have immediate recall, but it's got to be there. And if it isn't there, you can go and get funny looks, but that's on you. Got to go back and review. So we just did it. Now, I put down the Enlightenment, but I could also use social changes. I made it a little more definite on mine. Here's my example. My why, I could have put down political issues or social issues. I just used the Enlightenment. That was my political and social. But I could have just said political. And then, where are you going? Okay, go sit down for a second. Sit. Something has happened in a number of classes. So you're the guinea pig in this class. People have just been getting up when I'm in the middle of something. That's going to end. That is so rude. I'm working here. And so if you do have to go get a Kleenex or you have to throw something away, ask, or you just get up and go. And I've looked at people like, what are you doing? I finally realized, this is something. It's just this. It's very rude. I don't think you're a rude person, but that was a rude act. I'm in the middle of working. If you have to ask a question, then ask. That will end. So I find that just so weird and odd and antisocial. So it's time to learn. Do you have a question? Too late. Yes, you may. All right. So back to this. So that's, I address it. There's my why. A, B, and C. What is my first body paragraph about? Equality. And that will be in my topic sentence. The second one, unalienable rights. What's the third one? The social contract. Remember I told you how short IDs were kind of the building block of an essay? Isn't that what it is then? Mm-hmm. The only difference is, I say generically under social ID, or let's say social ID, on a short ID, you have to say why it's important. Well, in the context of an essay, just relate it back to your thesis. Just relate it back to your thesis. That's how it's important. That ties everything together. That's an essay. That's all it is. We've already done the building blocks. You want to do another one? You do. Analyze the causes of the Civil War. I know we haven't gone through the Civil War. I'm just going to give you examples, okay? Here's a really bad essay or thesis. The problems leading up to the Civil War were numerous. Thanks. If I saw this thesis statement, what would be my first thought about the person writing this essay? Yeah, either they're lazy or they have no idea what they're talking about, which is probably a combination of the two then. And what kind of essay should I expect? Now, even if it's the best essay in the world after that, already in my head is that thought process of this person doesn't know what they're talking about. I'm expecting garbage. How will I grade it? I would probably be a lot pickier, wouldn't I? I know you'd say, no, you shouldn't be that way. You should be fair and impartial. No, I tend to be human. And I will look at that and say, God, this person is not prepared. I'm going to get garbage. I wish it wasn't that way, but it's true. You start out strong. And they're like, especially in a timed essay, because you won't have time to go through it. They're going to be like, okay, this person's good. This person knows what they're talking about. I might give them the benefit of the doubt. I know that seems unfair, but that's the way life is. And it's also logical if you think about it. Here's another low quality one. Problems to the Civil War, economic and social. That's kind of got a why, but there's no blueprint. It's pretty weak, isn't it? The next one, medium. This is what I could call a weak thesis. The Civil War was caused. So that's kind of addressing the question. Then it has an A, B, and C. Industrialization, slavery in the territories, and the election of 1860. but there's no why. There's nothing to kind of tie it together to show your position. Here is a simple but very high quality thesis. It's not a masterpiece. It doesn't need to be. Problems leading to the American Civil War were fundamental ideological differences between the North and the South. Over the role of the federal government, A, industrialization, B, the spread of slavery in territories. So my first paragraph of the body will be about the role of the federal government, and I'll relate it back to differences between the North and the South. That would be how I'll tie it all together. Does that make sense? Now, this is a better thesis because I give a little more explanation. This is high quality. Can everyone read it? Can you see it okay? A thesis statement can be 2 sentences. Now, I could have used the words political disagreement, and I would have handled that political, but I want to get just a little bit more definite, but political would have been perfectly fine. And so everything's going to go back to that disagreement over slavery in the North and the South, over these 3 big issues. And you notice I'm a little bit more specific on the A, B, and C. And then everything relates back to the thesis. Okay, we got to write essays. But we chunk them up, think about them in terms of something you can address and identify in a short time, get what you know down in a short period of time. Look at them as, this is the way I get to show off what I know. I get to write down what I know. And essay questions are going to be broad enough where you don't have to have exactly certain things. You can put down a lot of information as long as you address the question. We like essays. We might not like the process of actual writing them. Because once you start writing them, it's work. I understand that. But think of it as, this gives me an opportunity to write what I know. More opportunity to get a higher score. And after you see a few multiple choice questions that are difficult, I think you know what I'm talking about. Would you like to do one on your own? The answer is yes. See, I'm thinking for you. It makes it so much easier. Remember we did a brainstorm list yesterday? You remember those heady days yesterday when we did that brainstorm list? Wouldn't that be awesome if we could take that and do it again? Oh, the answer is no. Why was this done? Remember that? Let's write a thesis statement. Now, there's lots of factors, aren't there? We're not turning it in, so just do it in your notes. It's just practice. And let me give you a hint on the why. Isn't the Industrial Revolution a lot of economic changes for the United States? That's what we call a hint. And then think about an A, B, and C of the different factors we have in the Industrial Revolution, and think about which ones you could write a short idea. Remember, I gave you, I think, 9 factors. Go. You just did a brainstorm list yesterday, so it should be pretty clear. Remember, the main theme, or why position, and A, B, and C. You should be finishing up. Go back and look through it. Make sure that you have some kind of why. I'll give you a great hint for why. You address the question, which is really easy. What are the factors of the Industrial Revolution? The factors of the Industrial Revolution. Led to huge economic changes. Make sure you have an A, B, and C. A, B, and C. All right, you should be finishing up. So as soon as you're done, we'll do the same thing we did as the brainstorm list yesterday. Go ahead and compare, read your thesis statement to someone next to you. Make sure that you understand and see the X, the Y. As soon as everyone is done, quick, do it.
No, it's not even.
What's the range on this?
Factors of the Industrial Revolution.
So way out in the hallway?
Has many economic change. I don't know.
Be careful what it says.
Entwined into such as.
If you have to get in a group of three, you three work together. And that's, yeah. You two work. You got to. Read yours, make sure you see.
Series of economic changes that greatly impacted the United States. The factors of the Industrial Revolution revolutionized systems and society, and they were transportation advances, technological advances, and new philosophical movements. Each of these would influence the economic society.
That's not you're gonna lose.
No. I thought we were brainstorming first, so
You mentioned the railroad as one of your bid
I can read it. I was starting started.
All right, then you should be finishing up. Don't worry, we'll do a lot of these. The thing about it is, boy, this is clear, good shape. No. Quick run. All right. Did anybody read someone's thesis statement that was wonderful? It was so good that you want to volunteer them to read their thesis statement. Yes. You mind reading your?
The Industrial Revolution was caused by the War of 1812 and Hamiltonian economics, which led to the American system. The Hamiltonian economic system set the grounds for the building of factories, a system in which supply and demand determined the market and the means to make jobs.
Very good. Yeah. So supply and demand. So we're talking about capitalism, wage jobs, and you kind of tied up there with this new economic system. Yeah, that works out very good. You have an A, B, and C. I see exactly where you're going. Another one. Yeah. Huh? Greta, go ahead and read yours because thank you for volunteering.
Okay. The Industrial Revolution was impacted greatly by influential economic changes during this period of history. The most important factors regarding this change are the broad factory system that the War of 1812 and many new innovation.
Many new what?
And
Yeah, that's great. That's a really good and basic why. Economic changes. Because it's broad enough, you can put everything together. See, aren't you glad you volunteered?
so
And then you can talk about the issues of the War of 1812. You can talk about, what did you have else?
the War of 1812, the factory system,
Yep.
and
Yeah, innovation, very good. Yeah, that's another one, yeah.
I said that the factors of the Industrial Revolution led to sweeping economic change throughout the U.S. as seen through developed nations, the introduction of laws like ergonomics and the popularization of Christmas.
Now, yeah, that's a very good one. And you talk about Christmas, you talk about how the economic changes on that. The only thing I would say is that laissez-faire and Adam Smith are very close. Yeah, they're very close. So you might, but it still works. That's very good. I know exactly where you're going. So all three of those, if I read that, I know. And by the way, I know where the essay's going. What is my feeling about you at that moment?
We know what we're doing.
Wow, do I like you? You're gonna get a good essay. You're gonna give me a good essay. I feel good about you. Anybody else? One more. Any volunteer? Yeah, go ahead.
Rapid leaders in the Industrial Revolution were affected by many technological advances like steam power and the wind, with transportation to reduce the time it took to get raw materials to factories, and the 20 economics that flown most commercial class and created.
So, what was your, good, you have good A, B, and C. What was your Y again? Yeah, that's, I didn't really see, you mentioned the factors in Y to your A, B, and C. So if you were to put down something like economic changes, then you're going to talk about each of those as an economic change. I would have, just one more little thing. But the A, B, and C were very, very good. Want to read yours? No, I know you're good.
No, it's not.
You just said it was good. You got one more volunteer. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Said the Industrial Revolution was caused by the economic changes taking place in the revolution compared to developments in transportation, the war.
Good. And you have economic issues will tie it all together. That's your Y. Good A, B, and C. Yeah, if you're not sure about the Y, I was a little more definite, but if you're not sure, just use economic, use political changes, use cultural changes. If you're not sure, that's all you need. And then everything right back, or you relate back to these economic changes, that'll tie the whole essay together. And once you have a good thesis statement, you're kind of organized, aren't you? All you do is you have to have a couple examples in every paragraph, but you're in good shape. Yeah.
What's the why describing? I think it's basically why the Industrial Revolution happened and why are the factors?
Yeah, basically it's trying to say why they're the factors. Yeah. What about them? Because it could also be, it's very close to why the Industrial Revolution is happening. So basically it's why is trying to give something that will encompass the whole reason for the Industrial Revolution. And that literally could be economic changes, political changes. I was a little, when I made mine, those examples, I was a little bit more definite, but it's just like you have something to say, oh, the Industrial Revolution, well, these are huge economic changes. If we talk about the issues for the Civil War, those are huge political changes. You talk about the changes in American society, those are cultural changes. It could be that broad, and you put everything in that umbrella. You want to write an essay now? You just want to do it? You just want to go right now? Now, let me say one more thing about this. That would be a good question. It's broad enough where you can write a lot of things, but it's not so broad. It's not like describe the 19th century. But you can focus on the Industrial Revolution, but it's broad enough you can bring in many other things. They had an essay question, this is years ago on the AP exam, but the essay question was, how did Republican womanhood change America? Republican womanhood, remember where women will teach the children how to, and they, yeah. And my class came back after the exam the next Monday, and they were like, this essay question, And I said, well, I have good news for you. Everybody else in the country had the same essay question. And they had just as many problems as you did. And standardized tests are graded on a curve, so just do the best you can and go. All standardized tests are graded on a curve, including an ACT. Huh? What's that? All right, let's finish up then. We will do a more thesis statement next week. Next week we will have an essay test.
It's like going to be each class at the time,
yes.
Right?
Now, I will help you out before the test. There'll be certain things I'll let you do before, so you'll be more prepared.
You have a date.
Yeah. You will get the questions before.
Oh, it's like a list of questions.
Yeah, I'll give you 3 choices, but they're all related to the Industrial Revolution.
Sounds good.
It's a good topic. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so. Oh, I should ask one more thing. Say goodbye to them. You got to admit, I kind of like that. And the amazing thing is now, that's probably, looking at the close, I'd say late 40s, 1940s. So they're probably, no, they're not, no. But they're in their 80s now, or late 70s, early 80s. Some are, some have passed away, but. So let's get to women's rights. Because women's rights came right out of those changes that led to women losing status. And these were middle-class women. Middle-class women would lead this because middle-class women, they're in families, this small group who, yes, now their husband's going off and earning a wage, but they make enough money to afford some of the trappings of an upper-class life. And the upper-class life, the big trapping was, this is how you made it in the 1840s, where, yeah, you had to work hard, but boy, I'm getting up to upper class, that you would have a housekeeper. So a woman from the working class would come into your house and work. That was the sign. Now, that's not quite a middle class today. Middle class are things like you can afford to buy your home, send your kid to college, maybe get a car without a huge amount of debt. Of course, car, what is the average? The average, yeah, 2,000, 3,000, 100,000. I was looking at it, new vehicles are 50, 60,000. That's kind of shocking. Of course, we've had a lot of inflation. Yeah, we've had a lot of inflation. So let's get to this. So if they're going to be in charge of the morality of the family, why not all of society? That was the argument. Why don't we help improve the morality of the of society? You start seeing this 1830s, 1840s. So all these cross currents are happening so fast. It's just an incredible time. And so they got involved in reform movements. The abolitionists, they got involved in temperance. There's also a big movement on prison reform, because prisons were still horrific, but they were absolute hellholes. And the idea is that we could reform them. And also kind of make them worse in some ways. This would be a big improvement on society. In fact, they started calling prisons reformatories. They can be reformed. Basically go through solitary confinement, so you can ponder yourself. But temperance means limiting what? Do we remember? The alcohol. How about abolitionists? That's for getting rid of what? Slavery. If you didn't know abolitionism was getting rid of slavery, put that down on top or something so you don't forget. Temperance is alcohol. Abolitionist is getting rid of slavery. And remember I told you about a woman's sphere, and I talked about that yesterday? Here's a little thing from after the Civil War. A woman's sphere is not just the home, but wherever she can make the most good. Implying that women then, if they're so noble and pure, they can bring good. In a way, it kind of turns that whole philosophy of the Industrial Revolution on its ear, because then it said, it's a pretty easy step to, why are we worried about freeing slaves or having better rights for prisoners when in many ways women are treated like slaves and prisoners and second-class citizens? Shouldn't we fight for our own economic and political and legal rights? Should we fight for that? If we're fighting for the rights of others, why not our rights? This is actually, you see the same development in the 1960s. In modern feminism, when so many women, when we get involved in the fight for equal rights for all, the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement, it was like, wait a second, what about us? And what became the number one issue, as I put up by this sign from the 1880s? Voting. Now, let's go back. Let's think about cause and effect. The women's rights movement did not begin in the United States. And where it began, those women fighting for voting rights were called suffragettes. Remember, suffrage was a term for voting. What country? Britain. That's where it began. Also meaning the fight for democracy we'd get there, even though the United States would jump ahead and behind in some ways. Suffragette. The vote, the thought was to get the right to vote, this would solve all the other problems, because women, politicians would have to listen to women. Is that what happened? It wasn't quite that easy. And so three of the most important leaders would be all middle class, married. There's Lucretia Mott. She's in many ways the brains behind it, a brilliant person, a tireless worker, and she worked hand in hand with Elizabeth Cady Stanton. And she actually had a relatively unhappy marriage. She was very happily married with a very supportive husband and for equal rights. And Stanton, who also was brilliant, but Stanton was a much better politician. And this is politics. You have to go through and persuade people and talk to people. And she was disarmingly charming. You're one of those people who can chart your songs off. He had that gift, which is a pretty good gift for a politician, isn't it? You know, there could be people who are incredibly intelligent, but they aren't very political, not very charming. Lucretia Mott drew people to her by her brilliance, but Stanton was much better at persuasion. And then Susan B. Anthony was younger, and she would spend the whole rest of the century fighting for voting rights. And she very much admired both of them for their great skill. When the voting right, with the 19th Amendment that would allow for women to vote, or force women to vote, force states to allow women to vote. I finally got the word right. Took me a while to get the words right. Let me backtrack. It would force states to allow women to vote, and that would be a constitutional right that they couldn't take away. In 1920, that amendment, the 19th Amendment, would be known as the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. It's the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. And one more thing about Susan B. Anthony. She'd be the first woman on currency. In the 1970s, they were going to make a silver dollar smaller, because the silver dollars before were very big and bulky. They're going to be smaller, and the thought was this would be cheaper than having paper dollars, because paper dollars dissolve. Silver coins last forever. And they're currency because it's just nickel and zinc. But the problem they made these Susan B. Anthony dollars in 1977. The problem was they made them just a little bit bigger than quarters, so they'd be small and easy to hold in your pocket. And people got confused between quarters and dollars because they were about the same size. And this is the time people use a lot more change, and they would try to go through with their hands and find a quarter, and they might have grabbed a dollar. And so they never took hold, which is sad. And so it only lasted for about 6 years. They might float around. I have a few. So the United States beat Britain in the year of revolution. The first women's rights convention will be held in Seneca Falls, New York. Seneca Falls. And in it, in the preamble to the statement that all the men and women who went, and you'll notice all these women right on top, Lucretia Mott, but also a significant number of men. It said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. And it draws from what document? Yeah, we just had it. And their main goal in this document was we need to fight for suffrage. But it would be 72 years of a fight. 72 years. And some states and territories, like for example, Wyoming Territory allowed women in that territory to vote in 1867. Anybody know the first state to allow women to vote? Anybody know what state? Yeah. Good guess. Utah. And Utah did it, but that was very much to increase the number of Mormon church members who were voting. That was a very conscious thing for Utah. Montana allowed women to vote in 1914, so 6 years before the 19th Amendment was ratified. Montana would also send the first woman to the United States House of Representatives, Jeanette Rankin, who we will get to down the road. She'd be elected twice, right before 2 world wars. Well, you'll notice one man I will mention in here, a lot of people, there's James Mott, Lucretia Mott's husband, but Frederick Douglass. Anybody know what Frederick Douglass is? You're thinking of Stephen. I know there's a lot of Douglasses. He's probably one of the most famous abolitionists, a slave who, as he said, stole himself from his owner, ran away and became one of the leaders of the abolitionist movement, and then a tireless fighter for equal rights and economic rights. We will get to him, obviously. So there would be a huge backlash. And men would mock women for wanting this, saying they go against their traditional values of being at home and a wife and caring for children. And you notice I put traditional values in quotes. And this is a cartoon, this is actually from Britain, but it's showing women now in Parliament turning it into like a tea party and a gossip house. So it's taking all these kind of stereotypical ways to attack women. Traditional values, women at home must get married, care for the children. That was a traditional value. What did I tell you that was called yesterday? The cult of domesticity. You notice I put this in quotes. How old was the cult of domesticity?
2 years.
Yeah, it just happened at this time. They claimed it was traditional values, but it was brand new. The traditional values. You're going against traditional values, and yet that was the current call. Let me add one more thing really quick. Last two things for the bell. This was a massive time of religious upheaval too. And capitalism, the wage system that went along with it, so radically changed things. Radically changed things. And this kind of change, when people, everything they thought they knew seemed to be thrown out. Maybe they didn't understand the wage system, all this new crazy technology. Which I know we might not think of a steam engine as crazy technology, but it was then. All this change. Every single time there's radical change leads to huge insecurity. Huge insecurity. And you're going to see religious revivals, let's say in the 1920s. We saw it in the teens. We're seeing it to an element now, where there's these kind of mass moral panics about things. About like the teaching of history, or huh? Yeah, I know. About all these crazy things I'm doing in here. Would you like a quiz tomorrow? How many questions will there be?
9, maybe.
It will probably be 9. But we gotta do it. Sound good?
How many questions?
No, it's on pages 379 to 389 and 409. Have a good day, everybody. So a little bit on election of 1824 and Andrew Jackson, and like labor unions and things like that. Oh, yeah, I see. Right. I will get it. No, I just like, oh no, I forgot. But this was my show.
So volleyball's gonna be on tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
So is it just the quiz and
Quiz, and then we're gonna do the religious upheavals, finish up that.
so finish that block?
Yeah. So yeah, you're gonna be on. You'll get on Monday. I don't think.
Okay. Also, in Power School, you can back my tests and it isn't. Yeah.
You know, one thing I have is I'm so bad at.
That's all right.
No, it makes me mad, but I'm so bad at getting on the computer. All the numbers are the same.
Right.
So I thought I went back. So you want to.
Yeah, I do. I really do. I'm thinking.
Because you. Yeah, that was you guys. Yeah, it's in my right now.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh,
it dropped my grades.
It will not. Your grade will go back up.
Sweet. Thank you.
It probably won't be till tonight, but I'll get it. I promise.
That's all right. As long as it's done at
Yeah,
some
I
point.
just editing on the computer. And I'm getting old. I gotta admit. Good. How about you? Good morning. It's still morning. Where I was going with that. But I remember.
Yes, then I remembered after I said.
My inputs.
That's like,
Oh, yeah, you wore that last year. Oh, cool. You told me that. Yep, yeah, I remember that now. I gotta get my mind set. I got an email. I didn't look at this. No. Well, actually, not too bad. Minneapolis, Kansas City. Oh, Kansas City, Kansas. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Kind of fun. Washington, D.C., Toronto, Montreal. I know. I saw
Sometimes the class wasn't that bad. I didn't even do anything today. I glazed today and I still got it.
It's just a problem.
San Diego.
I just get reached over the sea, yeah, like all over the end of the mountain.
I've heard about it.
No, it's not.
I've heard about it. They're not throwing drugs. It's a little.
It's a little I like to bring towel away.
Somebody else told me they were good, but I've heard nothing about it. I'm not a huge fan of brands.
Reasons to take photography. Take a photo, it tells you all the reasons why it's amazing.
Okay, so good.
Oh.
No, you said that's what Jared told me. It's like you're taking a photo and I said the ceramics makes me I love ceramics. But
I like totally forgot.
where's that?
No, hey, I'm like, oh,
Where's
yeah.
the
Yeah, that's
1915. Oh my gosh. Right, that's pretty famous.
New York, I want to take that first.
I really like her. I wish we were coming closer.
No, I saw you.
Minneapolis is really good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sitting there.
All right, everybody. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, we haven't had a gift in a very long time. I have a gift for you. And all I want in return is this. You want it? You don't want it? Oh, then I don't want it. I only want it if you want it. Andre, where were you yesterday? You're at the college? Generic college? At college. And where we got two? Just one after. Put it on. Put one on a Roy's desk. All right, we got to talk about writing a thesis statement. I'm kind of excited now. Glad you got this beautiful Nebraska. Lincoln's got it.
Dude, the way it's weighted, you get like in the